daughters, sisters, and wives. He says they're gonna change our lives. He says be women, be girls. They'll make a better world. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. And now here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Hello, welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. And as you all know, we are all about funding women. So I am super excited today to talk about equity crowdfunding with the person that is in charge of partnerships at WeFunder. Please welcome to the show, Mariel Rošić. Hi, Mariel. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. It's sunny where I am, so I'm super happy. How about you? How are you doing?
Absolutely. It's sunny here in LA and we're loving life. Well, a lot of people don't know about equity crowdfunding, so I am excited to talk to you about that today, and also about how you, as a young woman, got involved in the investment world, because let's face it, there's not enough women in the investment world, and I want to talk about how you ended up in that. Because it's an interesting story. So you had shared with me you were born in New York and grew up in Boston, right?
Yeah, that's right. So my parents both immigrated. My mom when she was very young, my dad when he was older to marry my mother. And I was born in New York City, and then they decided to raise us in the suburbs of Boston. And that's where I am right now. So
cool. And where did they immigrate from?
They came from what was then Yugoslavia, now Croatia.
Wow. I've always wanted to go there. It's supposed to be so beautiful.
Stunning. It really is.
Yeah. I think Game of Thrones put that on the map, right?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped. Yeah.
So very cool. So that's where you're originally from, your family. And when you were going to college, you had shared with me that you were studying neuroscience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so interested to share with everybody how you ended up from neuroscience going into the investment world.
Yeah, great question. So I went into college, kind of started studying biomedical engineering and transitioned to neuroscience. I think I definitely came into college, my parents are immigrants, and I think anybody with immigrant parents in the United States can kind of relate to, okay, you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, and like that's kind of, the path for you. And so I think part of that is, part of why I studied neuroscience and why I started off on that path was because of that kind of influence. But I also studied neuroscience because I just had a background in research science, and I've always been intensely curious just about the world and how it works. And so doing research in neuroscience was just a beautiful way to explore the human brain and human behavior and, why we are the way we are. But at the same time, most of the friendships that I was making and, the friend groups and circles I was falling into just so happened to be students who were founders, students who were incredibly entrepreneurial. And I was just spending so much time around people who were, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old and building, phenomenal startups and phenomenal companies. But I think doing so, at least at my university, with a real lens on, social impact. And really trying to create, mission-driven, impactful companies that were really focused on solving, actual problems, not just, being an app to fix something. And so it was really wonderful to be in that space and then get introduced to Dorm Room Fund, which is the original kind of student-led venture fund whose, mother fund or LP is First Round Capital. And that's an amazing collection of undergrads, graduate students, MBAs, PhDs around the country who invest in student startups. And that was a phenomenal kind of entry. I think I started as a sophomore in college. So I was a part of Dorm Room Fund for about 2.5, almost 3 years. And that was a phenomenal way to really, play the role of a VC years before and beyond college that could ever be possible, the ability to not just source companies and bring companies in, but to actually vote and have those voting rights and decide how to allocate capital, and then to be in charge of portfolio support for those companies. And so
wait, let me ask you something about Dorm Room Fund. So for people that don't know what that is, it was like a venture capital fund, and the people putting money into it were corporations. Is that right?
So our LP, or like where the money kind of came from, was first round capital.
Limited partnership, for those that don't know what
Exactly.
that is. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of like our mother fund, and then they have their own, LPs, and they have their own sources of capital. But basically, first round capital gave us the money to invest. I think the check size is changing this year, but when I was there, it was 20K checks at the pre-seed stage. So we really prided ourselves on being the very first check that founders would get, and we offered the most like insanely founder friendly terms that were out there, because really we were just hell bent on supporting founders and being the first in.
And you were actually the one that went out and sought the founders to
Yeah.
become part of this, right?
Yeah. So I think that what was awesome about the Dorm Room Fund network was it was a collection of students who were deeply embedded, in university ecosystems and in their kind of local cities and states entrepreneurial ecosystems. So we were out there, going to all the pitch events, sitting in our, campus centers and entrepreneurship centers, just meeting with student founders constantly, providing support, and eventually, hopefully guiding them towards sources of capital like Dorm Room Fund.
So this is really cool. You would go and find these founders on campus
Yeah.
and say, oh my God, you have this amazing idea. I'm so excited about it. We have this dorm room fund. We can give you seed funding to get that started.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's like the coolest job ever. No wonder you got interested and excited about it. So after that, how did you end up working with WeFunder? And then we'll talk about what WeFunder is.
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of after I joined Dorm Room Fund, my next few summers, I started phasing out, of neuroscience research and like lab research. And I spent one summer interning at a startup just as it was launching. So it was just 4 or 5 of us, in a room in San Francisco, launching this startup and really working with the founders to do that. And that was an amazing insight into just what it actually takes, operationally to launch a startup. And then the next summer, I worked with a phenomenal incubator, accelerator, kind of mastermind community called Commerce Club and Make Lane out of Los Angeles, which focused on supporting female founders of CPG direct-to-consumer companies. And while I was there to really help, the women in this community with access to fundraising and just talking about, what is venture capital, what are the different sources of funding that are out there. And over time, like time and time again, I would be meeting with these amazing founders, and I kept hearing, well, Mariel, like what's equity crowdfunding? Like what's WeFunder? We've heard about this model. What does it do? And I was embarrassed because I was like, I've never heard of this before. I actually don't know what that is. And I was really committed to just helping these founders no matter what. And I was also in a place where I realized that, traditional venture capital and sometimes venture growth models aren't always the best fit for founders. I think there's this idea, because it's so sexy and everybody's talking about it and so exclusive, that VC is like the kind of one size fits all path for everybody, but it was only ever really designed to fit a minority of cases, for that kind of unicorn hockey stick growth. And there were so many founders who were coming to me and saying, I want to build a sustainable, profitable business. Like I don't want to 10x in 1 year, but I know that I'm going to be creating this amazing sustainable revenue generating business, but I want to do it on my terms. And so with that, they were coming to me asking about models like equity crowdfunding. And I didn't know anything about equity crowdfunding. So I kind of put my feelers out within the Dorm Room Fund network and ended up becoming connected to Johnny, who is our VP of investing at, our VP of fundraising rather, at WeFunder. And I brought him to kind of talk to the women in this accelerator about equity crowdfunding, and it was a hit. And after that, my conversation with him went so well, and I told him just how passionate I was about the space, and that's how I ended up, joining WeFunder. I think there was just alignment from the start, and it was really beautiful, to join a company after having, forged a partnership between, WeFunder and this accelerator that I was working with. So it was an ability to really work with the company and see what they were about, firsthand, and then, working is amazing.
I love your stepping stones of how you got, to where you're at. It sounds like such an exciting journey.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand equity crowdfunding. And one thing I love that you do there is you're very passionate about getting women funded, because let's face it, like you said, the venture capital world is not friendly to women. We get less than 2%, as most people know, which is just crazy. I think we get maybe as much as 20% in crowdfunding, but still, still would like to grow that obviously to 50%. And then also what a great gateway for women to start becoming angel investors.
Yeah.
And so if they don't know about how to do that, one of the best ways is to start an equity crowdfunding because it's not a big barrier to entry. That's the beauty of equity crowdfunding, right? Is that it used to be only accredited investors with $1 million in assets or 200,000 in income could invest in another company and get shares, equity. But now, thanks to the new laws passed by Obama, that we can now have equity crowdfunding for any business. It doesn't have to be one that's scaling. It could be just a startup, and it's no barrier to entry for women. So we can be funded by it, and we can become funders in it, and that's what's exciting, right? So let's talk about that. What are some of the numbers, and how can people become involved, and why should they want to?
Yeah, phenomenal question. So basically this all started, I'll give a tiny bit of history because I think it really paints, an amazing picture of kind of why we're here and why this exists. It all started, I think, a little over 10 years ago when our founder really wanted to invest just a couple $100 into his friend's startup. And he realized that that was illegal, like fundamentally illegal. And there was no way for him to invest. He could donate, give $100, but he couldn't make an investment as an unaccredited investor. And he thought that was ridiculous. He thought you shouldn't have to be making, over $200,000 a year. You shouldn't have to be supremely wealthy already to be able to make investments and then profit, from those investments down the line. I think there was also a belief that, in these private markets and private investment, it's VCs and millionaire angels who are making the decisions about, who gets funded and who moves along the path towards exit, and ultimately who shows up in the public market. We should have a say in that as well. No, like the consumer community should have a say in who ends up there as well. So basically, out of that just frustration was born equity crowdfunding, and it was something our founders lobbied Congress to pass into law with the Jobs Act. You're right, in 2012 under Obama. And what's really exciting about equity crowdfunding is it's a way, at least on WeFunder, to raise anywhere from $50,000 to $5 million from both unaccredited and accredited investors alike, with as little as $100, all rolled up into just one line on your cap table for founders. And that's super exciting because it means, if you're a founder who has a diehard community, who has people, whether it's friends and family, and you have the privilege and access of having friends and family who want to invest, or whether that's something you don't have, but you have, again, those diehard customers, those super fans, people in your network or who are customers of your company who really love what you're building. It's a way for them to not just give you maybe $25 like Kickstarter, maybe get a t-shirt and forget about you, but to really financially invest, emotionally invest in your company. And then hopefully, when you exit, whatever that liquidation event is, those are the people, your mom, your friends, your community, your customers who profit. Like those are the people who you celebrate with when you exit. And I think that's something that really, really resonates with founders. On the one hand, we're still fans in many ways of the VC model. It does work, for many companies. And we see so many companies who raise from VC before, during, and after, an equity crowdfunding campaign. But ultimately, I think something that really, resonates with founders is when you think about who's investing in your company and who's going to profit at the end. Do you want to make already very wealthy VCs and angels perhaps even more wealthy? Or are you more excited about making your super fans, your community, your family, the people who you celebrate with, the people who, profit ultimately from your success? And I think there's
people can do both, right?
Exactly. And
right?
I think that's beautiful.
Do angel investing from accredited investors, and then they could do this, supplement it with this equity crowdfunding, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's really beautiful. I mean, I think there's been like $5 billion in follow-on VC funding from WeFunder companies, which is really exciting to see. And something that we're seeing now that the cap is 5 million, a trend that I really love is, because usually we serve companies at like the seed stage, like they've just launched, or they've been around for about a year. Maybe they're looking to bridge from like a seed to Series A. Maybe that's those early stages is where they're at. With the raise now, it used to be that founders could only raise up to 1 million. As of March 15th of this year, founders can now raise up to 5 million, which means that we're seeing an exciting trend of companies that are at their Series A or even B stage. And what they're doing is maybe they're raising $10, $20 million overall from VCs, but they're allocating a portion of that round, maybe, that 1 to 5 million, to equity crowdfunding, to investors through WeFunder, because they're really excited about, allowing their superfans and customers onto their cap table as well. And it's just something that, is just really aligned with their mission and what they want. So that's an exciting trend that I'm excited to just see, grow even more in the future.
So let's explain to people what this means, because
Yeah.
often people are really innovative idea game changers, but they're not financial people. And so they might not even know what a Series A is, a Series B. They might not know what it means to put one line on their cap table. Can you explain those things?
Yeah, so basically, when we talk about seed financing, we're talking about maybe the first or second round of equity capital that you're getting from people. So this isn't out of pocket. This isn't money that's just being donated. This is money that's being invested in your company while it's still being privately held, with the hopes that at some sort of exit or acquisition or IPO, whatever that looks like, however many years down the line, that some sort of profit is generated or returned from that investment. And so seed stage, now VCs have invented even pre-seed stage, which is like the first maybe couple of $1,000s that enter. But really that entire seed stage is basically the first kind of handful of checks that help you launch, that help you post-launch, help you with your first couple hires. It's really that initial like injection of capital to help you build momentum. Series A and Series B is more for kind of expansion and growth. Okay, we've proven product market fit. We've started really growing the team. Maybe when we want to explore new verticals, maybe there's other kind of market expansion that we want to do. That's kind of what comes with later rounds of financing. So when I talk about seed, Series A, that's what that all means. And then whoever invests in your company through these equity or venture rounds, whether it's a venture capital firm or an angel, they all live on something called your cap table or capitalization table. And that's basically just a list of, okay, who has invested, what terms did they invest in, how much equity in my company did I give up to them, and that's kind of what the cap table is. It's where everybody lives. And a clean cap table just means, if you ever need to collect signatures, if there's ever any legal work, the fewer people you have to collect the signatures from, the better. So that's why people say a clean cap table is always something that you want to have. Minimizing perhaps the number of lines you have there is always something to prioritize.
Yeah, and I think a common question would be, I know it was for me and you had explained to me, was that I think people feel like it could be daunting to have 100 or 1,000 people invest in their company in equity crowdfunding. But what you all have done is simplify that by what you just said, make it one line. Let's explain how that's all on one line instead of 1,000 lines. You have the lead investor that's on that line. So explain that to everybody so they understand how easy it is for them to do this equity crowdfunding.
Yeah, you're so right. It is incredibly easy. And again, part of the reason also, just like as an aside, why this is all perhaps like foreign, to some people, is that it is very new. So, if you haven't heard about this or don't know the details, that's okay. It's on us to, come places like here with you, Catherine, and talk about it, because, this one line on the cap table only started happening in 2020. So this is incredibly new. But yeah, so the way it all rolls up into one line on your cap table, at least at WeFunder, we use kind of what's called a special purpose vehicle, which is just an easy way for us to kind of aggregate all of the investments together and roll them up into one line on your cap table. And that is represented by somebody called the lead investor. So usually in any round of venture financing, you pick somebody who's going to be putting that first check in, and they're called the lead investor. On WeFunder, the lead investor is somebody who is investing at least $1,000 through your WeFunder campaign, or somebody who has previously invested at least $1,000 on the exact same kind of terms that you're offering to the WeFunder investors. And what's amazing about this structure is you never have to worry about collecting, 1,000 signatures. You never have to worry about the voting rights for 1,000 people. By investing on WeFunder through this structure, whether people are investing $5,000, $20,000, or $100, they're basically waiving their rights and signing away, voting rights, signing rights, et cetera, to the lead investor. So the lead investor is basically somebody who is chosen by the founder. So hopefully there's like a really strong connection there. Hopefully there's somebody strategic, as a lead should always be, or any investor should always be. And there's somebody who votes, signs, et cetera, on behalf of the group of people that have invested in your campaign.
That's amazing. And like you said, this is a major breakthrough just recently. And so
Yeah.
I'm so happy to, enlighten people about this new opportunity, both as women that are looking for funding to go to wefunder.com and learn about it and speak with you. And then also, if you're interested in investing, I know I've done some equity crowdfunding and it's very interesting, and they send you updates of what's going on and it makes you feel a part of it. And it's very exciting to go to sites like WeFunder and see what people are innovating. It's fascinating and exciting. And like you said, you can make money on it. But even more importantly, you're helping out hopefully another woman, since we're all about investing in women, and helping make their dream come true while being a part of the exciting journey. And like we said, also benefiting from it financially. So there's just a total win-win in participating in this type of thing. Thank you so much for being here. I hope we send some people your way and have enlightened some people today about the incredible work that WeFunder is doing and why they should be a part of equity crowdfunding. How do we follow you on social media?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, it's been really, really great to be here. I mean, one of the things, kind of like you're saying, that I'm really passionate about is just, first of all, telling founders that this is an option. I think it's so, so powerful, and it is such an amazing vehicle for so many founders that, getting your help and just getting the word out really, makes a big difference. And also, saying to, women who are investing that this is an option and this is an amazing way to, pave a road towards accreditation and being an angel investor. Like, here's a way to start your portfolio now, before you even get accredited, which is just, an amazingly empowering thing to do. But yeah, I am just Mariel Rošić on Twitter. And I am more than happy to talk to anybody. My DMs are always open. And I know that likewise, everybody at WeFunder is always super excited to talk to anyone who reaches out to us. We always love just getting on the phone with founders and explaining, how this all works and if it's a good fit. So more than happy to speak to anybody who thinks that this could be interesting, and always also, excited to talk to any women who are excited about investing or want to know about best practices for investing on a platform like WeFunder.
Right. And they can follow WeFunder on social media also?
Yep. We're just at WeFunder everywhere. Yep.
Okay, awesome. And as everyone knows, you can follow She Angel Investors and She Angels Foundation as well on social media. We hope you'll be following both of us. And you can always reach out to me to get a hold of Mariel or reach out to her directly. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Remember to invest in her. Thank you so much, Mariel, for this great overview on equity crowdfunding. Love it. And I love what you're doing, and we're cheering you on.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy to be here with you.
Thank you. Make it a great week, everybody. Goodbye.
Our theme music was created and produced by Lindsay Tomasic.